My Michigan Wolverines, battle for Atlantis, opening game. They're taking on the Memphis Tigers. This should be an entertaining game. I'm pretty excited for it. Michigan opens as 1-point underdogs. One of those games that, like, I think you really want to win more than you want to admit. Like, I'm going to feel so much better about Michigan's season if they win this game than I will if they lose this game.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad saying this because I think it's my third or fourth time in 5 games saying this is a swing game for Michigan as far as how I view them. I know I said it was St. John's and that did swing me, but this is truly one that I think will swing people one way or the other. Not just like me and you, but I think nationally too, because I feel like both teams have had good wins. They played well. I would even say well. I think they played good up until this point of the season. And I feel like it'll be able to swing people's feelings on these teams one way or another. As I stated before, and I told you offline, and I said on this episode before, I'm actually pretty big on the Memphis Tigers just as a team. I think they're a little bit undervalued or underrated. So, Michigan beating them would go a really long way, and Memphis beating Michigan would go a long way in my eyes too, because that's a win against a good team.
Talk me into why. Because I've heard you repeatedly say you're high on Memphis. I just haven't been able to trace why.
So a lot of it really starts with age for me. A
They
lot
are
of it
old.
is I truly think I was a denier of it kind of early on in college basketball. Like last year, for example, I was a huge just denier of, like San Diego State, they're old, they're doing this, they're gritty, they're doing this, they're doing that. But it really goes a long way when you're playing against, other teams and guys who haven't played that much college basketball. Granted, you have Michigan players who have played a good amount of basketball, but at the same time, Jelly JQ, 24 years old, David Jones, 23 years old, Jaquan Walton, 22 years old. Like all these guys have played so much college basketball that I think that means a lot more than people give them credit for. And like on top of that, I truly do think they're talented. Like the whole Javon Quinterly thing. I know like last year he didn't have the best year, but at the same time, before his injury, like he was a very main piece, a starter, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on a really, really good Alabama team. So that actually carries some weight and means something to me. I think they have some guys that can go.
They definitely have guys that can go. I have a crazy Memphis stat for you that I'm sure Memphis fans are in the know on, but like,
Wait, can I say one thing before you say the stats?
yeah.
There's nothing you could tell me to actually get me off of this Memphis team until they force me to
Okay.
get off pause. Like I'm not looking at any statistical things. I'm really basing it on what they're doing, how they're playing, and the age of that damn team.
So this is similar to Texas, I think, where it's kind of like you have your mind made up until they prove you wrong. And then when they prove
Yes.
you wrong, you're willing to be like, I'm out. That's
Yeah.
totally fine. What I would say based on Memphis is they haven't really been tested this year. I know they had the big win at Missouri. The other 2 games they played were cupcake opponent games. They won by 17 points in both of those games. Honestly, like, I think like Alabama State's a team they should have steamrolled and won by 30 if they're a legitimately good team. I know I'm saying that as a Michigan fan who just lost to Long Beach State. They should have won that game by 10 at minimum and didn't. So like we don't know how good either one of these teams are, is what I would say. We do know who these players are, and they're guys who have played a bunch of college basketball, have had a lot of success, also have like some things that come with them. Like I don't want to say baggage necessarily, but like Javon Quinterly has some stuff to him. Caleb Mills hasn't exactly been the winningest guy the last couple of years. Like I do think there are there's some rightful, like, what's this team going to do when they hit some adversity? Like we know they're talented, and when they're in a game where they're just like up 10 the whole game, like they're talented enough to just win those games. But if they go up against a team who likes to play fast, that might have the best 2 players in this game, all of a sudden I'm very interested how this team reacts, because these are guys who have not really ever at all played together until now. Here's my stat. This is crazy. I'm sure Memphis fans know this, but I don't think anybody who isn't like paying close attention to Memphis is aware of this. Every single starter on Memphis's team has played at 3 different programs in their college career.
I love
That's
that.
how, like, not only are they old, these guys have been everywhere. And you can say, like, oh, yeah, that's great. They're 23 and they've played a bunch of basketball. My flip on that would be these guys haven't really found a program that wants them very much. Like, do you think Alabama was worried about losing JQ? Like, I just think there's a lot of guys who, like, people are like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And Penny's like scooping them up and saying, well, you're talented. This will work. And it will work. They'll beat less talented teams every time they play them. But I don't think Michigan's less talented than Memphis. I think Michigan has a clear identity here. My whole stance when Michigan played St. John's, when it was, again, a 1-point spread or whatever, I think Michigan was underdogs. My whole stance was that when we get into the fight of this game, Michigan's going to know who they are. Two teams that like to play an up and down style. Michigan has the identity. They know how they want to win. And St. John's is a collection of dudes who's playing together for the first time. They're going to look at each other and be like, what do we do? I think that could very well happen with Memphis. I know they're all old, but if they get down like 6 early in this game, you telling me everyone's not looking at each other like, well, whose turn is it? Like, that scares me.
Well, the thing is, though, it's not just a whose turn it is thing, though. It's a, if they get down 6, it's not a figure out on offense whose turn it is. It's, I'm gonna get stops on the defensive end. Like in that Missouri game, for example, they found themselves down close to like 17 points. Or I mean, they were able to cut into it going into halftime, but I believe it was a double-digit game for most of the first half of that basketball game, and they just completely locked in defensively and were able to get stops. And I don't know if they're necessarily. I would love to actually see the numbers on it. I know Michigan's been pretty bad. I feel like Memphis isn't metrically that great of a defensive team, but it seems that they kind of have accepted that on some games, it's not figure out who needs to take over to get shots. It's just let's get stops. And I feel like they've been able to at least lock in for short stretches and get stops.
I think that's a fair evaluation of how they've won games. I would just remind that, like, Missouri's the only test here. And I think what you're saying, like, it's a lot easier to get stops when their best player is Nick Honor. Like, what happens tonight when they're like, all right, we're going to lock in and get stops, and that little motherfucking Doug McDaniel has the balls. Like, what are we? I'm just saying, it's easier said than done to, like, shut him and Kamwa down. And, man, like, I know I'm buying back in. I'm doing the whole Homer thing right now, but, like, in a game like this, I think it really does matter to have the best 2 players on the floor. And I know Michigan has concerns with depth. They obviously have concerns defensively right now. They're 80-something defensively on KenPom, 83rd. I'd like to know who the other 270 teams are that are worse at defense than Michigan right now, according to KenPom. I don't really believe it, but like, you look through what Doug and Olivier have done this year. Like, these guys are playing like they're top 5 players in the Big Ten, both of them. So I think that's going to matter. I think you're going to get at least one of them really good tonight. Like Kamwa in 4 games, 25, 17, 9, and 22 points. He's had 4 assists in 3 straight games. He's rebounding every game. He's been efficient. Like, Doug is just a bucket. We already know that. He's coming into games averaging over 20 points a game. He has 22, 26, and 20 in 3 of his 4 games this year. Like, again, this is a game where Memphis plays how Michigan wants to play. So that's been the case for every game Michigan's played this year. We really won't know what Michigan is until they play a half-court team. But like, I'm just not afraid of, like, Memphis. Okay, good defense, but they want to play how Michigan wants to play. We have the best 2 players. We should win this game.
Yeah, and like, for as much as I would personally like Memphis to win this basketball game, because I do like my True TV Tigers, I just don't know if their style of play offensively, and I think you've already mentioned this, so sorry if I'm repeating what you're saying. Even though the Long Beach State game was one you want to look away from and move past, Long Beach State kind of like showed a blueprint on how to score and how to attack the Michigan team to me. Like, I feel like they were able to throw some gimmicky stuff at them on defense, like you said. And, you know, they were able to do some things on offense, nothing crazy, but like they had guys that could go. Like, some guy on Long Beach State had 30. I don't think there's a guy on Memphis that is putting up a 30 ball. I don't think that's in their bags necessarily. So I don't think there's a guy offensively that can just explode against this Michigan team, which will probably be at a disadvantage for them, which is why, like, Michigan should win this basketball. Like, is that the word you're using? Like, you expect Michigan should win this basketball game, or is it like they should win, but also at the same time, if they don't win, it's like, okay, they lost to Memphis.
I would say it's more hope than expect, because it's hard to expect anything from a defense this bad right now. That's just me being true. Like, I don't think Iowa fans can come on here and ever expect to be the top 35 team in the country, because any given night, like, you're just going to give up wide open shots. I will say this. I think if Michigan is who I want them to be and who I think they are, in my heart of hearts, I believe they are the team from the first 3 games, not the team that didn't show up against Long Beach State. That's who I believe they are in my heart of hearts. And if I'm right, you should win this game. You have the best 2 players on this floor. It's a team that plays right into how you want to play. You should win this game. If they lose this game, then it is much more of a I need to reevaluate who this team is moment than it is anything else. Like, if it's a close game, they lose by 2-3, whatever. Okay, that happens. If they lose by like 20 because they can't get a stop against Jordan Brown and Jelly Fam, then I'm like, okay, we're going to have a long discussion about where this team is headed right now. I also think there's a chance that Juwan Howard is on the bench for this game. And that weird quotes being given. They're asking Phil Martelli, like, Juwan's here. Is he going to be coaching? And Phil's like ducking all the questions. It's weird.
He's in the Bahamas?
He's in the Bahamas, yeah.
Oh, wow. I must have missed that. Okay.
Yeah, he traveled with the team, which is it's, I don't know. It's just strange. I think I would bet, if I had to bet, I would bet that he coaches this game.
What are the odds on that?
Probably plus 130.
I just don't see any world where Juwan coaches his basketball game.
You serious?
No chance.
I'll send you the clip. There's it was a really weird answer. Like, they asked Phil, like, Juwan's here. What's he doing here? Is he coaching? And Phil was like, well, it's going to be great for us. Like, yeah. What, Phil?
You're going to have to send me that.
Yeah, it was strange. All right. Who wins? You picked Michigan the other day. You sticking with it?
Yeah, I think Michigan wins.
Go blue, baby.
Not all that.